Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This week, I'm happy to welcome back Brian Volk-Weiss. I've chatted with him a couple of times, and it's always fun to check in on his new specials and projects. Today, we talk about the holiday movies that made us, a new Netflix special which Brian directs, as well as the new Netflix comedy special, Nate, a one-man show, which he produced. It's a really fun interview, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello.
Hello, is this Brian?
Hey, how are you?
It's great to talk to you again. So I've gotten to watch holiday movies that made us, and I've liked all of the that made us stuff y'all have done so far, toys, movies, all of it.
Thank
One of the things I'm sure it's got to be tough to pick access. I'm sure has something to do with that. Can you talk a little bit about getting down to the choices for holiday movies? Everybody's doing their Christmas movie list right now. How did y'all narrow it down?
Well, first of all, we pick movies that we know appeal to at least two generations. Ideally, it could be three or even four, but we try to have at least two generations that enjoy a film. Then we start to dig in, and to be completely honest with you, it has nothing to do with access. The access is, what it is. We really base it on, is this a big enough movie that enough people are excited to learn more about it? That's the first question. And then the second question is there an episode here? There's some movies that not a lot happened. They got greenlit, they filmed it, they released it, and it was a hit. And that's it. And it's good for the people involved making a movie, but that's not very good for us as documentarians to tell a story. It's very boring.
Yeah.
So there were actually a couple Christmas films that we didn't do because they were just, nothing really happened. It was just a success story.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching, This Is Us or some family drama and thinking like, I feel bad for all of the fires that are happening in y'all's lives, but also this would be a boring show if everything was great.
Exactly.
Exactly. In sitting down to do these, one of the things that I notice, any documentary is more scripted than I sometimes think. I mean, I realize, you're sitting down to tell a story to me, not just show me your whole box of research. But one of the things that really strikes me about that made us sets are the editing style and the excitement with which it tells the story of the movie, toy, whatever. Can you talk a little bit about the chicken or the egg process of scripting that, getting the interviews and developing that? Is it kind of a house style now?
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. And it's funny, it always was a house style, but I love that expression. I've never used that before. I'm going to steal that from you. But with Toys That Made Us, which was the first series we had ever made for Netflix, everything else before that had been stand-up specials. Normally, we turn in first cuts that are very funny and very edited, in a certain style, and the network makes us dial it back. Netflix was the first company to not make us dial it back. And then once it came out and worked, now we get hired all the time because people want our style, ironically. So that's that. But yeah, when we basically have an idea of what episodes we want to do, we do about 4 to 6 weeks of research, and then I get handed outlines that are usually 3 pages long and I read the outline, and then I make the decision, is this or is this not an episode? If I do decide there's enough there for an episode, then we start pre-interviewing everybody. So from the research, we're usually able to put together a list of 15 to 40 people. And that comes with the research, with the outline. Mm-hmm. And then we start talking to all of those people and we learn more from that. Then we do a second pre-interview. The first pre-interview is over the phone and it's not recorded. The second pre-interview is done, it used to be by Skype, now Zoom, and that is recorded. And then once we've done all that, then we do the actual interview. And then in post, believe it or not, to a certain degree, the entire process starts again. And the way I always look at the editing is, it's like we're throwing vegetables and spices into a pot, and we just keep cooking it until it tastes right. So like we're in post right now on Pretty Woman and Aliens. And, we even though we knew there was an episode there, it's only in post where we're really finding out the way I like to say is like what the spinal columns of the episodes are. In the case of Aliens, I knew what the spinal column was ahead of time. In the case of Pretty Woman, it was only after I saw the first cut that I was able to be like, okay, you see that tiny little thing? I don't want to say what it is until the episode comes out. So I'll be like, you see that tiny little thing at like 18 minutes, 12 seconds? That's the whole episode. That's the spinal column. So take that tiny thing that's only in there for 30 seconds, and I want that to be the main theme of the episode. And then once that happens, everything else kind of falls into place. And it's really at that point just about carving and shaving and getting it to be beautiful. But it's finding that spinal column theme for every episode. That's the main thing we're trying to do.
Yeah, once you've got the center set right, everything else is a little easier, into focus a little better.
Right.
I also got to, or one of the things that I noticed was the change in narrators from previous that made us. Fee Kaplan does a spectacular job on this, I feel. Can you talk a little bit about choice of narrators? Was there a tone decision or a change for the holiday that went into that, or was it just a scheduling thing?
No, it was all about the holidays. It was Netflix's idea to really make this about the holidays and not just, 2 more episodes of movies that made us. Mm-hmm. So we really wanted to find a way to make it stand out and pop. And we did a bunch of little things here and there that aren't as obvious. But that was one of the more not subtle things that we did to make it stand out from movies and toys that made us.
I feel like she does a great job. It took me a minute to realize that that's not the voice that I think of with this series. So I also I love the other things that Nacelle picks to release. I think the last time I talked to you, y'all had just put out Slut in a Good Way, which was one of my favorite things from a film fest the previous year. And I was just so happy it got distribution and wanted to give y'all a hug for it.
Thank you.
But getting to watch Nate, a one-man show, it was a real treat. It's the kind of theater that you feel like you're simply not going to get to experience if you don't live in a town where that show happened. And seeing it shot so well so that the experience comes through was really cool. I feel like everybody ought to. I think they'll enjoy it. They'll get something out of it. But I think everybody ought to go watch it. Can you talk a little bit about coming across that project, bringing it to my screen, getting Phil Burgers to direct, and some of the choices that went in there?
Yeah, I've been doing this for a little while, and I know a couple people, and I did a pilot for ABC with Amy Poehler and Paper Kite about 3 years ago. So, we all knew each other, but it didn't go to series, unfortunately. But it should have, by the way. Yeah, I knew them from that. And I got a call from Amy's producing partner, Kim Lessings, and she was like, "I got something for you. It's it's not what you're used to, but I really want you to take a look at it." And I'm like, "Anything you want me to look at, I'll look at." And that's sort of how my whole business works. It's like, if I trust you, and I'll back it up. And if I don't know you, then, I got to do a little more homework. But I knew Kim, I knew Amy, and I trusted them. I watched the show. I was definitely blown away. I was not, I knew it was a risk. I knew it was not for everybody. But, I've at least once or twice a year, I really try to do something outside of our comfort zone. And, I was like, this is really important. And that was the other thing. It's like, I don't want to get on a soapbox or anything. I know it's just television. But I really thought, like, this is so cheesy, dude, but like, I really thought it could help make the world a better place. Like, if people watched it and they got through the whole thing and they really thought about what the show was about, like, it could make the world better. So there was all of that. And then there was Amy Poehler. So I was like, this is risky, but it's worth the risk. And I mean, we're number 2. Pace just put out their top 20 or top 10 list that they put out every year, and she's number 2. So, we put out 37 specials this year. We only got 2 on the list, and that was the one. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So you just mentioned how many things y'all put out a year. You have been part of or directed or produced an absolutely astonishing series of stand-up specials of almost every comic that I've ever, I think, watched you stand up in the last few years, really. In the past year, I mean, obviously we've watched people shift to drive-ins, to virtual things, to however they've got to do it to get to an audience. From a making stand-up specials point of view, what's it been like for you to change how you direct and put these things out?
Well, I mean, we did 4 specials in July with Tribeca. We shot it in the parking lot at a Rose Bowl. That's all we've done this year. I mean, we shot 2 specials, one in January, one in February, and then everything that was scheduled March through July was rescheduled or canceled. So we are technically scheduled to be shooting 2 specials in January. I'm curious to see if it happens, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, we have all these systems that we've used for 15 years that we kind of can't use right now. So, like I said, asked me in February how it was in January. Like I said, I'm very curious myself.
The last time we spoke, we were talking about obscure TV shows, and you had mentioned something called Odyssey 5, which
Yes.
I believe is folks can go watch that free on Crackle, if they can find out what Crackle is and then go watch it on there. That you were not lying. That is the craziest pilot I've seen in a long time.
Right. Right.
Have there been things that you have known that there's an episode there, but it just doesn't hit the quadrants that you need it to? It's just not gonna, I love Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, but that's gonna hit me, and that's it. And have there been obscure, slightly too obscure movies that you've loved and wanted to do something on, but it's just not quite there?
There's a property that I want to do it for Toys That Made Us and for Movies That Made Us, but that would be negligent. And that's Dune. I I always
Man, those
joke
toys.
I wanna wind down Toys That Made Us with an episode called "The Toys That Should Have Not Been Made," and Dune would be the spinal column of that episode, and then Netflix with movies that made us gives me like an episode, like they. I'm sure if I did not want to do RoboCop, Netflix would have been very happy. But they very nicely allowed me to do RoboCop. If they say to me one day, listen, this is the last season of movies that made us, you got to do, we're giving you 10 episodes, 9 of them you got to do for us, meaning for us, meaning them and me. One of them, you could do whatever you want. I would probably do Dune. A close runner-up would be The Black Hole. But
yeah.
I think I would do Dune. I mean, Dune is just so fucking bonkers. And like, it's beyond that. Like, it's even crazier than that description. So, very few people would like it.
Yeah. Your bonkers is a great way to describe that movie. I don't know that it's good or bad. It's just Dune. In moving into next year, is there was this year kind of just trying to get prepped? Do you have this stockpile of big things that you're wanting to get going once insurance and safety cooperate?
Well, on the series side, we luckily, we were very blessed, to put it mildly. On the series side, we have a Disney Plus show coming out in Q1 with Dwayne Johnson, called Behind the Attraction. We have the second season of A Toy Store Near You. That comes out on Christmas Day. Season 3 and season 4 are both coming out in 2021. So that's all going on. And then we have 2 other shows in production right now that I can't talk about. But yeah, they're in production right now. And one of them's coming out in September of 21. And the other one, I don't know when, but it's also coming out in 21. So, and then on the stand-up special side, like I said, we have supposedly 2 shoots in January. And then we don't have anything booked for stand-up until June.
Wow. That's to be expected and absolutely for the best, but wow, that's got to be hard.
Oh, it's crazy. Dude, it's crazy. I haven't been on an airplane since February.
Oh, yeah.
And I am usually on an airplane 4 to 8 times a month.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's absolute change.
This has been a real interesting year.
Well, I am glad for the lack of holiday travel I've got and the family members I'm not going to get to see that I did get to find out a little bit about Nightmare Before Christmas that I didn't know. I think I skipped a school dance to go watch that in the theater.
Nice. Yeah, I skipped a lot of school dances.
I was watching it and people were talking about it bombing in the theater, and I'm thinking I enjoyed the shit out of my night with it. It was better than that crap dance.
As did I. I saw it the Saturday after it opened.
Yeah, it was opening weekend. Yeah. So I'm glad that we've got these specials out. I'm glad y'all got to drop them. I think everybody ought to go watch Nate as well. And then hopefully it'll spark some kind of discussion. And I feel like that's to everybody's benefit. Man, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me about it all today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I never take it for granted being asked back. So thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk again next year. We'll see what else is going on. I'll check back in February.
Hell yeah. Stay safe.
TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.